بس که تو روز التماس هر شهید کرد
Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi has been laid to rest. The scenes were similar to what played out in the last 2 days. Thousands of people flooded the streets as the convoy reached its final stop of Mashhad. In the last 3 days, it has traveled to 5 different cities in Iran. Mashhad is the hometown of Ebrahim Raisi. His remains have been buried there. Iran says officials from 68 countries were present for the funeral.
وزیر امور خارجه الله مالک رحمتی استاندان و جهانید همه با هم
And with that, the 3-day funeral ceremony came to a close. Now, the public discourse is shifting focus from what happened to why it happened. That's what people are asking. Why did the president's chopper crash? The investigation is still on, but a new theory is, or a new charge is gaining traction, that the Americans are to blame, that US sanctions caused the helicopter crash. This claim is being pushed by some Iranians and their allies in Russia. They say, had it not been for US sanctions, the Iranian president would have been alive. You could argue it either way. But when this sentiment takes hold, it further poisons an already difficult relationship between the US and Iran. So why is this theory being propagated? Who exactly is doing it, and what do they stand to gain? And what is the US saying or doing about it? The idea to pin blame on the US was floated soon after the crash, when Iranians saw the pictures of the wreckage and they realized that Raisi and team were flying in an American chopper, a Bell 212 helicopter. Iran bought it when the Shah was still in power, so more than 45 years back. The chopper is named after its manufacturer, a company called Bell Helicopter. It was first launched in 1968 and it was discontinued in 1999, this chopper, but the Iranian president was still being flown in a chopper that was no longer in production. Raisi's helicopter crashed on Sunday. The very next day, on Monday, Russia's foreign minister spoke, that's Sergei Lavrov. He was quick to blame the US.
By implementing the sanctions that include ban on supplies of service parts for the US-made aviation products, they put people's lives at risk. The Americans disown that, but actually, other countries under sanctions do not receive service parts for US-made hardware, including aviation.
US sanctions are taking lives. Lavrov blames America for this tragedy, but obliquely. Here's someone else who's doing it directly. Mohammad Javad Zarif, former foreign minister of Iran, he called the US quote-unquote a culprit. He confirmed that Iran was unable to get aviation parts all because of American sanctions. In fact, let me quote further from his statement. This is what Zarif has said. These will be recorded in the list of US crimes against the Iranian people. So Zarif is calling it a US crime, and his view has many takers in Tehran, including some influential voices. Is there merit in this charge? It is a fact that Iran cannot access aviation parts, civilian or military. And this has been the case since 1979. That's when the Iranian Revolution took place. After that, Iran's supply lines were cut. The commercial airlines have some of the oldest fleet in the world. The planes are more than 25 years old. That's a quarter of a century. Iran still operates planes like McDonnell Douglas MD-83, Airbus A300, and A310. The rest of the world has long retired these planes, but Iran still flies them. And where do they get their parts from? Well, they have only two options. Either cannibalize other planes for parts, or if possible, reverse engineer them using materials that are available locally. The Bell choppers are patched up in a similar way. So indeed, the sanctions are an impediment, but could Iran not have found alternatives in the last 45 years? Should they not have built or sourced substitutes? The regime in Tehran must answer these questions. If the planes were too old to service, why were they not replaced? Why was an old chopper used to ferry the president? Should they not have sought help from their allies like Russia and China? They could have sourced parts from these countries. Why didn't they? Then there are questions on the circumstances leading to the crash, like why was the chopper allowed to fly in a dense fog cover? Couldn't they have waited for the fog to lift? Did the pilot think about taking a detour or using a different route altogether? And most importantly, why were all these leaders sitting in the same chopper? 2 more helicopters were part of the entourage. They made it back safely. It's not clear if they were occupied. And so far, Iran has not been able to answer any of these questions. The investigation into the crash is ongoing, so we'll have to wait for the full story to come out, assuming that the full story does come out. But at this juncture, blaming America for the crash is at best a political move to rally support, and at worst, a convenient excuse to evade responsibility.
Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alison Lagrange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. South Africa goes to the polls on the 29th of May. I will track the election and bring you ground reports. Is it the end of the road for the African National Congress? And will former President Jacob Zuma stage a dramatic comeback? From elections to climate change, to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global south. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost.